Gentlemen, welcome back. It is good to be back in the saddle. Christian, how's it going? Did you miss me?
Oh, I did. It was it. I had some guests, but it was great to have you back as always.
Yeah, no, it was good. Actually, it's kind of cool to see, the variety there that I'm sure the people loved finally not having to listen to me, drone on and on and on and on. But anyway, we got a fun one for you today. Of course, as always, we're gonna do civil unrest again. Like, I think this is like the fifth time or something. But the reason is because it just keeps on going, right? Like, it'd be one thing if like this thing was just like we hit a rough patch and there, there's some civil strife, some disappointment in the government or something, and then things are smooth over. But the problem is the way that the current like local and state governments, especially on the left, are managing this. They are like really trying to keep this unrest going as long and as hard as they can on purpose. And again, a lot of it's Trump, knee jerk derangement syndrome stuff. But so yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the government shutdown and who's really at fault for that. Which I can't imagine how this is even a question, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So yeah. So as you guys come in, please say hi. Please identify yourself. Say hello, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to fire away. We're here to answer anything that we can to the best of our ability, as long as it's relatively respectful and relatively on topic. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, so let's start with the government shutdown, which we're now going into the second week of the government shutdown. Which, um, if I hadn't read, I probably wouldn't notice. Because I mean, I hate to say it like that, like, because guys, don't think I'm being flippant about this. I'm sure there are federal employees out there, and even in our audience, who are are feeling some kind of crunch, or who are have their paycheck delayed or something. Maybe not yet, but probably soon will have their paycheck delayed. And I know that that's not something to be to just be flippant about, but it really is the case that unless you work for the government, like, this really just doesn't, like, nobody actually changes their life. We just get up and go to work like we do every other day, and it's like, honestly, it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, do we even need the government at all?
Mhm. Well,
Like,
we're in peacetime right now,
right,
um, and so yeah. So as far as pressing urgent things, there's nothing, and the Democrats right now are this feels like a 100% case of somebody overplaying their hand. You
yeah,
and I have talked about the case of using poker as sort of a metaphor, and where there's a time when you have the nuts, you have an unbeatable hand, and you play
right,
that strong. The time when you have a good hand, but it's unlikely somebody has a better hand than you, but better hands do exist.
right,
And there's a time when you have a very modest hand and you just feel like the opponent, you're probably better than your opponent, but then
right,
you just start acting like it's the nuts,
right,
right?
right, right.
And this is the thing where you can get in trouble.
Indeed,
And the Democrats have felt like they have a read that by shutting down the government, that they could bring pain to and embarrassment to the administration, the
yeah,
executive administration. Um, let's just say the embarrassment has been reflected back on them. I'm rubber, you're glue, a little bit like Trump is showing us a Teflon man.
yep,
That the uh, the leadership of the Democrats in this is really being questioned. Like their demands, the 1.5 trillion dollars that they want added to the budget, really like seems like you really want to go negotiate this now, and the fact that they're not really even negotiating,
right,
right? They're just like they're like we'll just wait and until you start having pain, and this is they don't know how to play cards, and they
right,
should have leadership that understands better. Like it'd be one thing if they were secretly having meetings quietly behind closed doors, but they're not really even doing that, and they kind of
yeah,
want the Republicans to come groveling to them for this continuing resolution, and the Republicans are like, no,
but
it's
I
just really
think
simple.
Speaking of leadership, I mean, I can't even, for the life of me, I can't tell who the leadership in the Democrat Party is anyway. Like, is it Schumer? Is it
Yeah.
AOC? Is it like they have like about 10 people who are all kind of trying to be leaders, but like part of the problem with that is right, it's just too many chiefs and not enough engines. But the other part is, I'm sure that was offensive somehow. I apologize if
Yeah.
it was, but part of the other part, the other trouble
Too
is
many
like.
scientists, not enough hunchbacks. Say that. Yeah. Say.
But like the other problem is like Trump's like, he's even saying he's like, I'm not sure who I'm even supposed to be negotiating with at this point. Like I got, 8 different people saying you can come see me in your office anytime. And it's like, what does that even mean? And okay, I will go ahead and just get this out of the way. Obviously, this has always just been a point of leverage that both sides have used for a long time, right? Like this is the game plan. It's nothing new to this strategy. It's like, let's wait till
Mhm.
one side, the government shut down and we can just like hold the government hostage so that
Because
the
we
other
don't have a balanced budget. Because we don't have a balanced budget.
right, because we don't have, or because we were spending too much or something like that, or this, that, and the other. But the irony here is that it's usually the Republicans who are holding it hostage because usually the Republicans are traditionally conservative and have a vested interest in not continuing to spend more, right? Usually that's the way it goes. And so the Democrats here are like, oh yeah, well if you don't
Yeah.
if you don't let us have what we want, we'll spend more. It's like, wait a second, that's precisely what we don't want to have happen. So what do you have no leverage here,
Yeah.
zero
Yeah.
leverage, and even if you
They
did,
don't
even
know
if
how
the
to. They don't
Democrats,
know how to play a shutdown. Yeah.
yeah, they really don't, and even if they did, like even if they had some leverage, they don't realize that Trump's got this like ace in the hole where it's like, okay, like if you don't let the government continue, I'll just fire a bunch of people, like a whole bunch of bureaucrats that I've been wanting to get rid of anyway, and you guys are like giving it to us on a silver platter. Like it just doesn't make any. This whole thing doesn't make any sense.
No. The one thing he hasn't done that yet.
Not yet.
Which
Not
people
yet.
are waiting to do that now. The question is there some back channel negotiation that's been going on that press hasn't talked about?
Right.
Is there because that's got to be somebody telling him to wait.
Maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
maybe they'd like to just, in good faith, not antagonize the Democrats, let them feel like they had their moment, and then pass a clean continuing resolution, right?
Maybe
Okay,
it's a
it's
slow
kind of like
clap.
a toddler that's throwing a tantrum. Like you don't try to antagonize, you don't try to make them angrier. Like you
Right.
don't trust them, you don't give them the keys to the car and say, go have a good time. But you just sort of placate them a little bit, talking soothing tones, and
It's a
it's
it's a
okay.
it's a slow play. Like they're just slow playing the set. Like they don't want to.
Maybe. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, right? They trolled him with the sombreros, right? If you're following that
A
meme, the
little bit, a
sombrero
little
meme.
bit.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and it's partly because everybody believes that, at least the rumors are, that AOC is pulling the strings from the very far left wing, the progressive
No
part of the
boy.
party. And even though the Democrats need to pull back to the center, their leadership is doing whatever the very far left wants.
Right.
And Schumer is it has the most seniority. And so it's his place to be the person out there doing it. But
Right.
he's just like the worst spokesman for this because he doesn't really believe it. He's sort of a little more old school liberal, but
Right.
he's got to go out and sell these very far left bullcrap policies that the far left of his wing
Right.
wants, and he looks ridiculous doing it. Like,
Right.
and nobody believes, right? So nobody's taking them seriously. It's like you're trying to bluff, but you're just telegraphing to the whole table
It's
that
like
you've got a pair of fours.
right. It's
Okay,
like
great. You've got a
the hand.
pair. You've got a hand. All right, great.
It's like the hand is
I've
face
got
up.
a stronger hand than you. I'm not folding. I don't know why you're expecting me to fold. Right? I mean, sorry, the card analogies are just too apt.
Yeah.
We will see. I think, yeah. Trump, the only reason I can say Trump has not started firing federal employees is that, yeah, um, he wants to just, calm down
Yeah, he's
the
a yeah,
the
sure.
the tantruming child. But if they want to, if they start getting serious, which would be I think if we get after Halloween and they still don't
Mhm.
want to do anything, then I think we're going to start seeing, you know,
Yeah, that's a long time.
Doge implemented in a way that so he
They're not
other
gonna
problems. So
yeah, yeah.
that's my take, and I think that's common sense, and I think most people see it that way too.
Yeah, so well, just to catch a couple people up, for those who are just tuning in, and just for those who weren't really following this thing, so the whole crux of this negotiation, right? The reason that the Democrats are trying to hold out, right? Ryan actually just mentioned it, so thanks for popping in, Ryan. The game here is that the Democrats want to negotiate the additional
Healthcare subsidies.
subsidies from the Affordable Care Act. Now, uh, the key here, though, that I think everyone, I guess, forgets when because they did a poll. They did a poll, and a lot of people were actually blaming this on the Republican Party, ironically. And the reason that they do that is because, of course, of fears about their healthcare costs probably rising. And but the crazy thing is that this negotiation doesn't need to take place. It doesn't expire until the end of the year. This can happen next month. It can even happen 2 months from now, and they still got plenty of time to negotiate all of this healthcare junk, right? And so, like, the fact that the Democrats, of course, are like holding the government hostage to try to use this, as leverage to like negotiate that when they don't need to yet. I would think that would be like just blatant black and white. Obviously, the Democrats are responsible for the shutdown. Like between the two parties, the Republicans want to push through the continuing resolution. The Democrats are filibustering to hold them off. Like it should be black and white. It should be like plain as day. Now, don't get me
Well,
wrong.
there's
I understand what
spin.
they want.
So one of the spin I saw was somebody like the Republican Party wants to take away your health care, right? They want to make your family. They're against your family and your children. And obviously, I'm like, no, that is spin, right? But the fact that we don't think the federal government needs to provide you health care or health insurance, health care, or does it need to subsidize your health insurance? This existed before people got health care without the government providing it. There's millions of people that do that now still, and um, just pushing back a little bit, lowering subsidies, not right because we can't afford it because we're in a deficit. Right? It'd
Right.
be one thing if we were running a surplus, we had all this extra money, but
Right.
we're running a deficit to say like, look, we'd love to have these subsidies, we can't pay for them,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
I'd love to
so
have a Corvette.
yeah,
I'd love to have
so make an
a
accommodation, yeah.
a 7 room mansion on a hill, but I can't afford it. Sometimes you just can't. Not to
The
mention, and I
government,
was
it's not the government's job to give that to you. Even
that's
something that's
right.
like a gun. You have a right to have a gun, but not to have the government give you a gun.
Right. So yeah, right. For Ryan, who actually is obviously is a healthcare proponent, a government healthcare proponent. Ryan, I'll pose this question to you. How is this constitutional? How does this not violate the 10th Amendment? And I know I've said this a million times. I know people are probably sick of me saying it, but if it's not Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, the federal government doesn't have any business doing it. I'm sorry, right? Like the 10th Amendment is very clear. It says that you cannot do it. If it's not in that list, you can't do it. You
It's to
must
the
let that
state.
power
Yeah.
revert back to the state or the people. And I don't understand why we've gotten to this point where over time the the narrow view of the 10th Amendment, the Madisonian view, the view that I espouse, has just been like tossed by the wayside, and everyone seems to have this outrageously broad view of the necessary and proper clause, the outrageously broad view of the preamble to Article 1, Section 8.
Hey, Eddie, just so you know, you've frozen on screen. Yeah, you're frozen. I'm still moving. I'm still good. You are frozen. 100%. You are. Yeah, you are like Elsa. Okay. I hear your voice, but you're still frozen. Your picture is still frozen. All right. we might just go ahead. We might just go ahead with you. Yeah, people can hear you. It's just your picture screen is frozen. All right. Oh, Ryan. All right. So Ryan, um, there's rules about what's appropriate for the federal government, right? And right, so the federal government cutting taxes, right? That's something that's within their purview. They can absolutely do that legitimately. Um, when there's a need, so there's a need for people to have healthcare subsidies, health insurance. States or counties, cities can reach in and do that. There's not a reason that the federal government needs to do it because it's different in every state, right? The needs healthcare in Utah very different from the needs in Manhattan, right? Or the needs in San Francisco, or the needs in Georgia, right? And so that's why one size fits all is really, really bad, right? It should really, the federal government should have a light touch, right? Should be, and should do things that everybody needs to do and allow things that need to be tailored for the particular constituencies, the people of their states, the needs of their states. Um, should be handled at a state level or county level or city level, right? Why does the federal government? That's a big thing. If there's a good or liberal policy, it doesn't need to be administered at the federal level, right? And especially these subsidies, they can have them. The states just need to vote for them, right? Let the states do them. The states that want them can have them. The states that don't. But there's no reason for the federal government, when we're running a deficit, to pay for things when we can't afford it. Right? If we had the money, that'd be great. Yeah. If they'd agree, I'd agree. Yeah, no, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. It's you too. Don't worry about that. You're loud and clear. But it's true. So obviously this is what the Democrats, right? So they have a concern like Ryan. People are concerned about healthcare subsidies. So they're playing it. We're not saying they don't have a hand. But we're saying they're overplaying it. That they're trying to make more out of this than it needs to be, especially with the urgency that's not there, and that there's plenty of time for states to come up and make the states that want that to make accommodations and do this, right? So again, when we're running a deficit, the Republicans would really like to get closer to a balanced budget. I don't know if Trump wants to. This is one of our we have criticisms of Trump, but if we can get closer to a balanced budget, he'd like to pay for more things with tariffs. We think that's right right now a little too early to budget that in, but we can take that into account at the end of the fiscal year. Um, right. So essentially, yeah, for the common man, it's not affecting your subsidies right now. All of that still exists. This exists till the end of the year. Um, this is more theater. They want to be seen as fighting Trump because this is important to their core constituencies, that they not be seen as legitimizing any opportunity they have to sort of make Trump's life harder, or make him feel like that they're slowing everything down, that they're being the swamp, right? They're being in the deep state to slow down Trump's agenda. That's what they want. So this is all just about slowing down Trump's agenda. Not they're spinning it as a ACA, but again, it's a weekend. or allocated, yeah. There's no line item, yes. Medi-Cal, yeah. In the general fund, yeah, yeah. 'Cause there's no restriction, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. The Democrat voters, they definitely like funneling it to Democrat voters, or what they identify people with identity characteristics consistent with the what the Democrat Party envisions itself in California. But yeah, so this is you know the right. So there's some ideological things, and it's a budget issue. There's debates, but it looks like the lack of debate, the lack of meetings, conferences, negotiation coming from the Democrats mean for the common man, this is just wanting to be an obstruction, an obstacle, and I don't think it's a serious issue. So let's see beyond the spin. It'll get resolved, and nobody will notice. But for now, the Democrats just want to be seen that they're fighters and not give reppers. Yeah. Yeah. You know what it made me think of? Made me think of the movie The Fugitive, which is set in Illinois, right? So The Fugitive, it's like, okay, Tommy Lee Jones is a U.S. Marshal, right? Because he's broken out of federal prison. So if a U.S. agent has come in and he's directing, right? There's the very famous scene after he's they found that he's still alive and survived the train wreck, and he's like, I want to search it, roadblocks here. I want to search for every dog house, outhouse, and then like if this was now, it would be he'd be now swarmed with the governor saying like, no, you can't arrest people that are escape from jail. Like, how dare you? Like he'd have to. They'd have these meetings when they're in Chicago, trying to listen to stuff and find out would be like, how do we deal with the government with people trying to kill us for trying to catch fugitives? Trying to catch criminals, right? Like he's the antagonist, and at the end, right, he finds out Richard's a good guy, but his job is just to bring this guy in, right? And that's all these law enforcement and these ICE. We have to enforce our customs. You can't bring anything into the country without declaring it at customs because this is 2025. You can't come into the country without telling us who you are, right? And so we need to enforce those laws that are on the books. That's all immigration, customs, and enforcement is doing. And that the governor is stopping this is like the most ridiculous pantomime. Like if that was in a movie with Tommy Lee Jones, we would just like laugh, like, oh my gosh, the Democrats. Yeah. Yeah, and it's inciting civil unrest and it's inciting violence. People are not only throwing rocks and trying to obstruct, but they're taking shots and using firearms. Who knows? Fireworks. Who knows? Molotov cocktails. And they're feeling justified that the governor, that the mayor, right? These elected officials are encouraging and legitimizing their vigilante antics, and it's the most irresponsible thing I can think of. Somebody who went into public service. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's called Canada. It's called Canada. We will not arrest you if you're in Canada. You are a bad guy. You are a corrupt official. Well, right. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and Trump is taken, and now it is escalating, but it's the right thing. He's bringing National Guard to defend ICE as they carry out their lawful everyday business. Now, all right. So Western society has a big history of civil unrest. We learned it from the French, right? In the Europe, and but a lot of those struggles were class struggles, right? Peasants, people with nothing against the elites, right? That the elites were out of touch, right? The Russian Revolution, right? You just had these unbelievably wealthy class and these unbelievably poor people and no middle class. and you had these civil unrest and things like that. America, since it's by the people for the people, we don't have kings, right? We have every 4 years major elections. Leadership changes over all the time. There's not need for this violent unrest. You make your objections known, but then we get to vote. You get to make changes. You have a voice. It's one thing if we don't have a voice, or if our voice is being suppressed, then you act out, right? So it feels like the protests and the civil unrest movement is being driven. It feels like theater to me. They're doing it to just show, right, and one of the big theaters is that Pites, the governor of Illinois, would love to raise his profile to be seen as a national. The Democratic Party talent pool is so weak. If he raises his profile, he just gets in the news enough. He feels like that'll be enough to his Q score goes up that he can run for president, right? And right, we're just like the worst qualified. Hey, there is no bad press as long as people know who I am. I can run for president. And the Democrat Party's bench is so bad. But so this type of antagonistic, it's inconsistent, it's hypocritical, but it is it does make sense politically if they're just trying to raise their profile. They're just trying to be seen by the base, the people that vote in primaries, the most left wing base, that anything Trump's doing, right, without any thought about it, they will oppose it. They will be against it 100% just because the order came from Trump, right? They are there. That is anything Trump does, I will oppose. That means when I get elected, anything Trump's done, I will try to, right back, no matter how effective it is. I will change that and get rid of whatever policy that was. The power base are and leadership especially. Well, yeah, right. We're a nation of laws. That's really right. We're not a kingdom, right? We're not in the thrall of some charismatic thing or the whims of the mobs. We're law, and that law has to be applied equally to everyone and citizens, right? And non-citizens, people that are breaking that law, that are gaming that law, right, are violating, right? If they break the law, then they deserve the consequences that are written in our law for people to break the law. Right? It's as simple as that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the theater. That's the theater. They bust them in. They get the media to take a snippets of their protests or their activities. These are what people go to college to do, Eddie. If you've ever watched movies, you know what an associate producer does. Associate producers just get tax subsidies or handle the taxes and get tax rebates for the production, right? They handle the taxes to lower the cost, and they throw your name up there as they're right. Really, you're a tax accountant, but it's a lot sexier to call yourself an associate producer, right? And right, so, but there are people who are professionals at it. How can I game the system and do? And right under Biden, and when they had the run of the place, right, they were funneling money to left wing NGOs who were happy to do this, right, to advocate for leftist causes, and they weren't expecting Trump to win, right? They were doing everything they could to keep him from winning, but it's still their plan is in every way to disrupt and use this money that they've been, Stacey Abrams, all of her billions of dollars, right? It's got to go somewhere, and these people are using it, and they're using it in ways also, well, like taxes is the secondary concern. The primary concern is to conceal if the money is from a foreign source, which would be banned and illegal. They're trying to essentially launder this money and get it into them, even when it comes from foreign NGOs or foreign governments or right other organizations. Talk about legitimizing right civil unrest to a degree that's really unprecedented. Yeah. No follow-up, yeah, or accountability, yeah. Yeah. Right. This is shovel ready, right? Yeah. So, infrastructure and again, things that just it's propaganda, things that just sound good. The Democrats will latch onto things, anything that they focus group has a broad appeal, like, hey, we'll improve infrastructure. It looks like 70% of people like that because common sense says, yeah, we would like our infrastructure to be more maintained, right? So we'll use that for this big balloon thing, say that it's all under the guise of something that has broad appeal and acceptance, but then secretly then just have zero follow-up and accountability on it. Yeah, it was a mistake. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Houses catch on fire. Yeah. Mm. Well, yeah, yeah. It's like a TV show. A gas station had a leak and one of their tanks exploded underground. And they, before the investigation can identify that that was the cause of the explosion, they come in and say it was terrorism, and we need to stop terrorism, right? And so, I mean, this is sort of like movie stuff, but that's why it's like the first responders are now people that it's like before we know anything, any facts, before there can be any investigation at all, come in, knee-jerk reaction, and try to lay this on the opposition party, especially if you are responsible. You want to try to get low information people and people that only pay attention to something right away to think that this was done, right? So you say, oh, this was a MAGA person or a right-wing person. Even if you have to issue retractions 2 weeks later, right? Those people are reading the New York Times 2 weeks later or whatever. They're not paying attention. You get the early attention people, right? Try to lay it on your that. I mean, this is the reason why people distrust the media, because it's been corrupted and directed to do this. The news directors do this, right? They want to paint a narrative, right? They don't wait for facts, right? Now, what this is reaping, right? The civil unrest. So it's one thing now I've seen, right here in Raleigh, big protests show up, people yelling loud around the governor's mansion or down on Moore Square for the cameras. And as soon as the cameras, right, the media, whoever, turn off the cameras, put them down, crowd disperses, right? They're there only to get to be on camera, right? And have the story reported. Um, right. Whether they're not Right. Now there are lots of other protests. What we have to do is find other means of protest that are more effective. What the Republicans did, right, with certain boycotts, right, when we saw the Bud Light ad that advocated a liberal social position that was um, disgusting to us, disturbing to us. Our means, right? We didn't attack Anheuser-Busch, right? We didn't go to their factories. We didn't start firebombing their employees, right? We stopped purchasing their product. We stopped using it, right? And we told people were told, right? Some people with large platforms let them know that they agreed with and were also not going to be consuming their product, and and that had an effect that got the attention, shall we say, right? And so that was a very effective. Now that wasn't anti-government. Now the question begins with how do we get our politicians' attention, right? Now this is a very easy one. I mean, it's not just votes. I mean, yes, it's registering to vote. It's actually participating in those boring surveys when they call you and you don't want to, or the surveys online. But it's also money. Money will talk. Even if 25, $30, right? You donate and say, like, hey, I heard you say say that you're for lower property taxes. And any politicians for lower property taxes, I'm with you. Send them money. That will get a politician's attention, just like us. You send us a super chat, you have our attention. So protests, I think we've become um with so much media now, so much television, so much that we can black out. We can just change the channel. We don't have to. We don't follow what protests are happening. We don't. And we think, and they've done so much. We don't take them seriously. So we need to find that the next thing is civil unrest. Either has to become more violent, which is we need to go the opposite. It needs to become less violent. But we need to find better ways to protest that get our leaders thing. And one of those things with money, it's not just giving money to leaders, but telling publicly saying, you've upset me so much, your leaders, I'm going to not only not vote for you, but I'm going to give money to your opponent. That will get their attention, right? Right? They will start paying attention to what issues you care about. Um, yes. We need a PO box set up, Eddie. Yeah. They protest when they're in power too, right? So and Kamala Harris always talks about, "I'm gonna do all these things when I get elected." You're in power, you can do those things. You don't have to. Yeah. And yeah, well, yeah, oh yeah. Well, because they know the prosecutors are going to drop it anyways in a couple months, right? Yeah, yeah, and it's gonna escalate as people feel like, right, that there's unequal prosecutions, that violence can be dealt to them with no consequence to the other side, they will turn to vigilantism, right? They don't understand this escalation, and they will blame right wingers, but right wingers are reacting to the lack of enforcement to left wing violence, right? So, I mean, the one of the heart of the Democrat playbook, and they've used this, is never waste a crisis, right? That because under crises, people allow the government to have more control, or allow things allow rapid change. We don't really have a crisis right now, right? The economy is humming along. It could do better. We're not at war, which is good, but we have some antagonistic situations in the world, right? But there's no crazy crises, right? Yeah, I got sick. There's still sickness out there. There's still, issues, but there's no crisis right now. Even global warming, for all the stuff, has not been. The trends have been, cooling, or all kinds of different stuff. There's no sort of crisis that we're at with global warming right now. The ice sheets are fine, yada yada. You understand? So the left needs to create a crisis to sort of justify the type of change they want, especially the radical redistribution. They want us to covet. They want us to be angry at each other. They want the civil unrest, and we need to consciously, common sense, reject this, see the humanity in our fellow man, right? Have people on, like guy Judy on, and who was an avowed leftist, who were starting to get red pilled to this and starting to realize that's not who we want. Those are leaders we don't want to follow. And even if there's parts of the Republican Party they don't agree with, there are parts of the Republican Party you and I don't agree with, but it's a big party, it's a big tent party. But overall, right, the leaders, for all their belligerence and flaws, are are leading us and where we need to go better than the buffoons on the left. Let's see the courts. I think it's a question for the courts that we take his public statements and say, is this law breaking for the governor to do this against a federal agency? Yeah, they they don't want help from a Republican. It's really just partisan politics. It doesn't matter. They're elites in their bubble, and their life isn't affected. So why do it? Well, all right. All right, so we do say Democrats were painting a broad brush. There are a few people that are trying to recenter things. I know New Jersey, the Democrat there is trying to run a little more towards the center. I know Connecticut and Rhode Island have had Democrat leadership that's tried to go more towards the center. Um, right, some common sense stuff. Um, so we'll see, but it's they're not getting the press, right? The only one that's getting the press are the people that are embracing the far left, right, and are taking marching orders. AOC is probably telling the governor of Illinois what to do. And that's why that's why these moves seem so idiotic, is he's taking his directives from her and wants to raise his profile by being in lockstep with the far left wing of the party. Now, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he gets so much validation from his base and his party for them. That is. But right, but ultimately that's a red pill. Some people, gosh, we're if they can red pill and see beyond that. That's the ultimate when things start to open up when you see that race isn't always the what the catch all end all be all argument. Then you can start to learn, and that's the beginning of wisdom, shall we say. Yes, yes, no doubt.